The beauty of the world, no doubt, lies in the diversity of its people. Thus, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, defines culture as a set of distinctive spiritual, material, intellectual, and emotional features of society, or a social group that encompasses not only art and literature, but lifestyles, ways of living together, value systems, traditionals, and beliefs. Simply put, culture encompasses what people think, what they do, and the material products they produce. Culture is made up of material and immaterial. The material culture are tangible items such as technology, architecture, and art. And these aspects of culture find expression in museums, which are the storehouses of cultural relics. On the program today, we will take a look at safeguarding Nigeria's cultural heritage. My name is Obiageli Ugoke, and our guest is Professor Isa Abba Tijani, Director General, National Commission for Museums and Monuments. Prof, you're welcome to Frontiers.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We will take an excerpt to set the tone for today's discourse.
Man is a product of the society he lives in, as culture encompasses what people think, what they do, and the material products they produce. In recognition of the importance of culture and to create awareness about the importance of museums, the International Council of Museums in 1977 set aside the 18th of May as International Museum Day. The International Council of Museums is a global association of museums and museum professionals who promote public awareness, conservation, and education. Museums, as storehouses of culture, are critical in preserving cultural heritage. Thus, over 30,000 museums in 129 countries across the globe commemorate the day to project what these storehouses of cultural relics have in store as they connect people to the past, capturing various aspects of human life, from farming, fashion, astronomy, archaeology, art, to history.
Professor Tijani, once more, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, it's said that a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. What is the Commission doing to expose the younger generation to these artifacts which are part and parcel of our culture?
Well, the National Commission for Museums and Monuments is mandated to manage our cultural heritage, but also to present our rich culture to our younger generations and also to every Nigerian and visitors. And it is important that our young, people in Nigeria understand about our past so that they will be able to relate well with our cultural tradition, but also understand the cultures of others. And that is why we have museums across the country that play this role. And of course, among other things, we try to reach out to our young generation in schools, both primary, secondary, and all levels of schools, through school visits, through organizing workshops, and also schools also visiting museums. So we have different programs in our museums to see that we educate our younger ones about our history and about our tradition as well.
Now, Prof, museums are known as storehouses of old artifacts, sculptures, objects, and as well as history, which helps to preserve and promote cultural heritage. What is the general state of museums across Nigeria?
Well, I'm happy to say that the conditions of our museums in Nigeria has really greatly improved. When I took over September 1st, 2020, I started in earnest rehabilitating our museums and upgrading our exhibitions. And we've been able to now upgrade up to 17 museums across the country to international standards, so that you will be able to go into our exhibitions and see that the way our objects are presented in the galleries are, very much in a way that you'll be able to understand our tradition and our culture. And the younger people, all our visitors, will be able to understand and relate well with the objects. And that is what we have done so far. And we will continue to do that with the rest of our museums, because we have 54 museums across the country.
All right, you just talked about the museums we have across the country. So we have 17, am I right?
54.
54 museums
museums
across Nigeria.
Yes.
At what locations?
We have museum in every state of the country except Ekiti State. And in some states we have more than one. That is why there are 54 national museums in Nigeria.
That's very interesting. And how would you rate the potentials? Is it being utilized the way it should be?
Well, yes, of course. If you go to our museums, they're very popular, especially with the upgrade that is ongoing and that we have completed in some museums. Today, when you go to National Museum Lagos, you find that you see so many children are there, as part of their visits to museums. It's part of their curriculum to go and, visit museums and understand about our history and about our culture. And we also have programs for the children, and we also have play areas. For example, the one in Lagos has been upgraded by the U.S. Embassy in Lagos, and it's really to a standard that you can say you can find it anywhere in the world. So we have similar ones in Ibadan, we have done that, and so many other museums across the country.
Let's talk about the synergy of the Commission with other organizations. How can members of civil society groups collaborate in realizing full transformative potential which museums have for sustainable development?
Well, when I took over as a museum professional myself in the academia, I have said that government alone cannot fund museums. And therefore, there's a need for us to collaborate with the private sector and also individuals who are passionate about our tradition and about our culture. So that's what we have been doing, and that is why, for example, the National Museum in Bauchi and so many other ones have been actually supported by different corporate organizations. And we've been partnering with U.S. embassies through their grants. We've been accessing funding for the upgrade of our museums and also collaborating in different activities to showcase our culture. And we are still appealing to individuals and corporate organizations that will work with us to see that we rehabilitate this sector of our culture, very important aspect. And we've been working with the Nigerian Society of Artists. We have been working with Archaeological Association of Nigeria, and we have been working with other organizations as well. So we are open to collaboration, because that is the only way forward for us to really expose that area.
Now, Prof, museums are also said to be key contributors to well-being and the sustainable development of communities. Can you throw more light on this?
Well, let us understand that museums are places where you go and understand about your past and the past of the others.
Your
people,
origin, your culture,
your tradition. But also, you also go there to participate in certain activities that will, give you a hint of all this tradition, about our heritage. And a museum is a place where you go, want to see the exhibitions. That's the artifacts that are being exhibited. But that alone is not what we do. We also organize activities that will make our visitors to participate in programs, So we organize workshops that our visitors can take part actively, and as part of that, by also understanding the culture and relating with some active objects, you are trying to make your mind to understand and respect the different value system that we have that will enable you to become more informed individual that will also participate in different activities that will promote the culture and tradition of people. So we have programs where we take our children on visit of our national monuments as well, so that they will be able to understand some iconic structures, that they will be able to relate it to history, of the tradition and certain events that had happened. So these are kind of active, events or programs that enable people to understand it, and by doing that, you are actually also promoting your health and also understanding, about the tradition of the people as well.
We also learned in school during historical studies that some of these artifacts in display are symbolic, in the sense that it represents some of the cultural values of our past history and the community, some of the things that our forefathers were in tune with. Do we still have such artifacts in the museums?
Yeah, we do, of course. The essence of having these artifacts is to portray the history and certain events, certain cultural practices that has taken place. And if you look at, for example, the masquerades that are displayed in our museums, sometimes we organize the children to now practically demonstrate how these things are done. And this is part of healthy, well-being. And also, we have certain objects that are meant for certain rituals, and certain presentation of festivals, display of certain events that has taken place in the past and so on. So all these things, we have objects that portray these activities. And whenever we go into the museums, especially when children visit museums, we enable them to actively take part in demonstrating these activities, so that they will be able to understand how our people were doing this during their time.
All right, Prof, we'll pause for a while. I'll get back to you. The program is Frontiers, and we're taking a look at safeguarding cultural heritage. The conversation continues in just a moment. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. All right, Prof, what are the challenges facing museums in Nigeria?
We really have a number of challenges, and one of the major challenges is funding, because museums are non-profit making institutions, and therefore to say that you are investing in a museum to get returns is very difficult. So therefore, we have to have support not only of the government, but also of the private sector. And then another challenge is basically aspects of professional capacity building, which is very difficult because we don't have the institutional support. We are looking for collaboration with our partners outside the country to see that we build the professional capacity of our staff, because you need to have that ethical support, so that we will be able to protect our artifacts, which are valuable. And of course today, with what is going on now with the repatriation of Benin bronzes, they have assumed certain values that are internationally are renowned, and it attracts people to these objects, and therefore we need to secure our objects. So one of the challenges is the security, and we are working in partnership with our funding agencies abroad to see that we modernize our museums, we provide the necessary devices that are required in order to protect these objects. And also another challenge is that of the environment, because all these objects are old, and therefore in museums, when you have old objects, you have to make sure that the environmental condition is conducive for the objects to survive. You have to provide the necessary conservation, to safeguard these objects. So these are all challenges that we have. And of course, we have challenges of staff as well, because we have so many museums and so many national monuments in Nigeria. And we are the largest sector in the Ministry of Information and Culture. So we have staff strength of about 3,000. So it's very difficult to manage that as well.
All right, now we are in a digital era. How can digital technologies transform museum learning?
This is an area that we are really focusing, because in this collaboration that we have been having with our partners in museums in Europe and in the US, we are very much focusing on digitizing our collections, because if you don't digitize your collections, you cannot reach out to a larger audience. And the way you reach out to your larger audience is to now through presenting your objects and a platform that they will be able to access. So these are areas that we are moving into, because we have to digitize first. And one of the areas that has been neglected for long is this aspect of digitization. And at the moment, we are also collaborating with Google Arts to digitize our collections, so that we can have a kind of a virtual exhibition of our collections, so that people can access them anywhere they are.
All right, some Benin bronze have been repatriated to Nigeria, and the federal government is to construct a museum for them. How far has this been realized?
Well, I'm happy to say that federal government has really taken this aspect very seriously, and that is why we have at the moment a new storage facility being constructed in the premises of the National Museum, Benin City, with an exhibition gallery. And also there is a plan by the federal government to construct Benin Royal Museum, which is very close to the palace of the Oba of Benin, so that the repatriated objects, some of them can also go into that object, which is also managed by the NCMM. And we also have made a case for a national museum in Abuja, which the president has graciously requested that we present him with all the details, so that the process will begin. And these are some of the objects, museums that are coming up.
We've had issues where some of our artifacts, sculptures are stolen, maybe by international, some of the foreigners coming into the country. And you also made mention of insecurity as one of the challenges facing this sector. How has that been taken care of?
Well, we have strengthened our security in all the museums. And some of the objects that were stolen, which are in the 1980s, for example, some of them have been tracked down. And one of them, for example, the Ife head that we found in Brussels, we are in the process of getting that object back from a private collector. And we are also collaborating with our partners across the world to see that we have some security agreements that we have in place to safeguard our objects from going out. For example, we signed an agreement last year with the United States. That's the Cultural Property Implementation Agreement, which means that any objects that found itself in US soil illegally will be returned to us immediately. And that is why we have secured the return of 6 monoliths that found themselves in the US. And also we are partnering with other countries to see that we sign similar agreements, so that we, as much as possible, make it difficult for anybody that will break into our museums and take objects to anywhere in the world. Then that will be intercepted by customer and returned to us.
Prof, with the spate of insecurity in the country, what is the Commission doing to safeguard the nation's cultural heritage. And it's good you've enlightened us on efforts by the Commission to recover some stolen artifacts. What other efforts are they putting in place to surmount the insecurity challenges?
One of the areas that many people don't know is that Nigeria has a living culture, a living tradition, that many of our artifacts are actually still in the communities. And one of the challenges we have is that a lot of people are attracted to these in situ artifacts. That means the artifacts that are in their original context of usage. So we have many people encroaching, especially foreigners, in collaboration with the communities. And we are safeguarding that because we have what we call the Artifact Rescuers Association of Nigeria, ARAN. And we are working with that because part of our act said that we collaborate only with registered, groups or individuals that are particularly, are allowed to work in trying to rescue artifacts from the communities. So we make sure that they collaborate with the communities to see that any artifact that is of historic value are now collected from these communities and then brought to us, and then we pay compensation to these individuals and these associations. And that is another way of safeguarding our objects. And of course, another way is to strengthen our existing museums. For the future, for example, the museum storage that we are building in Benin City is going to be fortified so that it cannot be broken into. Make sure that all the security devices and everything are there. And of course, our existing museums, we make sure that we have modern security devices that are put in place to secure the objects as well. And of course, we have training of our staff, because whatever you do, you have to have staff that respect the ethics of the profession. So we make sure that we educate them, we train them to see that they safeguard our artifacts that are entrusted to them, and make sure that everybody play their role in making sure that the objects are secured. And securing object means not only from theft, but also from damage, natural damage and the rest. So it's equally the same, because if you allow the object to deteriorate, it's as good as being stolen. So therefore we make sure that the environment in where these objects are secured are kept to the best practice, so that all the temperature, all the humidity and the rest are properly regulated and being kept for the objects to survive. And any conservation challenges, we must immediately arrest it so that we'll be able to keep the life of the object longer.
Okay, do you have any final words, advice to the people in terms of upholding cultural values? Because this is our identity, it is what we are known for as a people.
Well, I want to appeal to our audience, particularly the Nigerian audience, that there's a need for us to understand our culture. Because if you don't understand your culture, you will not respect the cultures of others. So it is important for us to visit museums, to go and see and understand about our culture and the cultures of others, so that we will be able to unite ourselves, through understanding our cultural heritage and respect our cultures, so that then we'll promote peace and understanding among ourselves.
Thank you very much, Prof. We appreciate you for sharing your thought with us and giving us the insight on cultural values and our heritage. Thank you once more for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For over 25 minutes, we have been looking at safeguarding the nation's cultural heritage, and our guest has been the Director General, National Commission for Museums and Monuments, Professor Abba Isa Tijani. I am Obiageli Ugoke. Thanks for staying with us.